देव शिवानन्द दीनबन्धु पाहि मां। देव देव शिवानन्द दीनबन्धु पाहि।
ओम नमो भगवते शिवानंदाय। ओम नमो भगवते शिवानंदाय। Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. My topic for this morning is Sri Swami Shivananda, a practical Vedantin. My humble salutations and prostrations at the lotus feet of my Divine Master, Sri Swami Shivananda, and at the holy feet of Sri Swami Sahajananda, the spiritual head of the Divine Life Society of South Africa. I also offer my obeisance to Sri Swami Vivekananda, whose spiritual energy still permeates the Parliament of World Religions. I offer my greetings to you as well, my dear brothers and sisters of the universe. It is a privilege and honor to represent my master at this year's Parliament of World Religion. I would also like to thank the organization committee for allowing the Divine Life Society of South Africa to be part of this august function. The presentation will be in two parts. The first part, the essence of Swami Shivananda's teachings, and the second part, the Master's teachings reflecting compassion in action from a South African perspective. In this modern era of the 21st century, we find the world in a state of decay. This is reflected by natural disasters such as floods, earthquakes, droughts, forest fires, and global warming, starvation and famine, diseases, pollution of our rivers and atmosphere, destruction of plant, animal, and aquatic life, wars and crimes. All this is due to man's selfishness, greed, lust for power, obsession to acquire material wealth, and the lack of compassion. Man has made tremendous material progress, but spiritually he has become stagnant. Today, more than ever, we need the divine intervention of our supreme and all-compassionate Lord. God will work through His earthly representatives, His true devotees who belong to the different religions of the world. It has become imperative that all the spiritual leaders come together as a united force to overcome the universal dilemma that we are all placed in. One such great saint was Sri Swami Shivananda, born in 1887 and obtained Mahasamadhi in 1963. Swami Shivananda is the practical Vedantin. He is the founder of the world-renowned organization, the Divine Life Society. He lived on the banks of the Ganges in Rishikesh, India. He belonged to that group of modern saints of India that was responsible for the spiritual transformation and for the unfolding the nectar of the Vedas. Swami Shivananda broke the shackles of orthodox teachings and adapted the spiritual truths to our modern day living. Just as the great saint Swami Vivekananda had the blessings of Mother Saraswati on his lips, Swami Shivananda had the mother's blessings through his pen. He spread the message of his universal teachings mainly through his writings. The master formed the mission in order to divinize our lives. Swami Shivananda was a practical Vedantin. Service was ingrained in him since childhood. As a little boy, he used to serve beggars, saints, and animals. The burning desire of service within him led him into the medical profession. As a doctor, he served the poor, sick, and needy selflessly. When he embraced the holy order of sannyas, service to the community was still his main objective. He broke all barriers of orthodox teachings. He served the sick, downtrodden, and poor, irrespective of race, class, caste, creed, or religion. Despite strong objections from orthodox Sanskrit scholars, the master also translated spiritual texts into English. He had great foresight that through the English medium, he will be able to reach the masses. Such was his compassion. He was responsible for making the great spiritual truths available to all and sundry. The cornerstones of the Divine Life Society are serve, love, give, purify, meditate, realize, be good, and do good. Serve. The first pillar of the Divine Life Society is service. Selfless service has been Swami Shivananda's prime intention. His teaching was, service to man is service to God. By doing selfless service, one purifies the mind. God's plan for man's evolution is service. Love for God and service to man are the secrets of life. The meaning of true life is service and sacrifice. Life is meant for service and not for self-seeking. Sacrifice. Do your duties well and sincerely. Your privileges will follow unasked. Lead your life for the service of others. The more energy you expand in elevating and serving others, the more divine energy will flow into you. Selfless service purifies. So, what is the object of selfless service? Why do we serve the poor and those suffering? Why do we serve our society and country? By doing service, we purify our hearts. Egoism, hatred, jealousy, and the idea of superiority vanishes. Humility, pure love, sympathy, tolerance, and mercy are developed. The sense of separateness is annihilated and selfishness is eradicated. We begin to feel oneness and the unity of love. What are the opportunities for selfless service? The world is yourself. Therefore, love all, serve all, be kind to all, and embrace all. Behold the Lord in the poor, the downtrodden, the oppressed, and the lowly. Feed the hungry, nurse the sick, comfort the afflicted. Lighten the sorrow of the sorrowful, clothe the naked, educate the illiterate, raise the downtrodden. The world is burning with misery and suffering. Wake up, O man, serve with love, serve untiringly. Work without attachment. It is extremely difficult to perform real selfless service. Work should be performed without attachment, without the feeling of doing it for one's personal purity, without wanting name and fame. Perform work merely for the sake of the Lord. As Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, give up the fruits of your action, become an instrument of the Lord. Swami Shivananda was unique when it came to selfless service. Even after he embraced the holy order of sannyas, he continued to serve. In spite of extremely severe austerities and prolonged periods of meditation, the master found time to serve the sick monks. He would keep vigil the whole night for the critically sick monks and even clean the rooms. He once carried Lek, a European monk, to the hospital. Orthodox monks did not believe in any kind of selfless service to the distressed. Therefore, the master's activities were ridiculed. The master started the Satya Serv Ashram dispensary to cater for the medical needs of the monks and passing pilgrims. He also started a leper colony to care for the needs and the rehabilitation of leper patients. One touching incident of the master's service is recorded. One morning, the master realized that he has forgotten to give useful medicine to a passing pilgrim. The pilgrim had already begun his journey. The master started after him and ran for 6 kilometers, finally catching up with the pilgrim and handing him the medicine. It was such a breathtaking sincerity of purpose and intense love of selfless service that became the crowning glory of the Divine Master's mission in life. The next cornerstone is love. Through selfless service, one develops cosmic love. Service is love in expression. By doing selfless service, the heart begins to melt, and one's love expands to encompass fellow human beings, animals, plants, and all the creatures of nature. All service is empty if there is no love, affection, and sincerity. If you serve with love and sympathy, God is behind you. Shankara, Lord Jesus, Lord Buddha, and the Prophet Muhammad served. To develop cosmic love, worship the poor, downtrodden, and oppressed. They are our first gods. Love all, make others happy, just as you strive to make yourself happy. Speak a helpful word, give a cheering smile, do a kind act, serve a little, wipe the tears of those in distress. You will find great joy. We are all the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch. Man is one, God is one, love is one, and law is one. True religion does not consist of ritualistic observances, baths, and pilgrimages, but in loving all. Cosmic love extends from tiny ants to the mighty elephants, from the condemned prisoners to the mighty emperors, from the worst scoundrels to the most revered saints. Hatred separates man from man, nation from nation, and country from country. One develops compassion through selfless service and universal love. Compassion is the crown of life. All beings and creatures of the world are nothing but the forms of God. Hence, our love should extend not only to human beings, but to all God's creation. The saints and prophets of God had this grand vision of seeing God in all creatures. The love and compassion they gave to dumb creatures was simply limitless. Swami Shivananda, the great sage of the 20th century, was one such radiant being. Such was the Master's grand inner vision that even inanimate objects like stones and bricks were revered. In all his reverence, he bowed mentally to all of these. Is give. Sharing, caring, and giving was part of the Master's very nature. He gave freely whatever he possessed, whether it was material belonging or spiritual knowledge. When it came to charity, especially literary needs, the Master was unique and without parallel. In a general sense, charity means love, benevolence, and goodwill. In a theological sense, it is universal goodwill to men and love of God. True charity is love in action. Charity begins at home, but since the whole world is your home, it should be practiced everywhere and anywhere. All wealth belongs to God. It is a sin to hoard money. He who lives as a trustee of his property and spends his money in charity knows that all his belongings is the Lord's. He feels that God gives through his hands. He lives happily as he believes he is just an instrument of God. The water of the Ganges cannot decrease if thirsty people drink from it. Likewise, wealth cannot decrease if you share it in charity. We should be giving 1/10 of our income to charity. This generous gesture should be done cheerfully, without doubt or hesitation. Prayer takes you halfway to God. Fasting to the door of the supreme abode. And charity procures admission. What is charity? Every good act is charity. Giving water to the thirsty, an encouraging word to a man in distress, a little medicine to the poor, ailing old man. These are acts of charity. Charity is not confined to dollars, rupees, and shillings. Think kindly of the people who are suffering and pray for their well-being. This will be more heartwarming than material handouts. Therefore, give, give, give. Due to Swami Shivananda's giving nature, people began to address him as Swami Givananda. Be like a tree. It gives shade to all, be it a saint or a sinner. The tree does not eat its own fruit. It gives it away, even if it's stoned. The master gave without calculation. One day, the master brought 2 disciples into his room to work. He asked the cook to bring oranges from the kitchen. As it was summer, oranges were rare and expensive. The cook refused, stating to the master that the oranges were kept exclusively for him. The master went himself to the kitchen, took the oranges, peeled one, and gave the disciples. Very rare and expensive, the master commented. Then the fish too can have some, if they are so rare and expensive. Why not share with them too? He said in great delight, simultaneously dispersing a few of the pieces in the Ganges river. Meanwhile, the monkeys had gathered on the roof, and the master threw a few pieces to them also. One by one, all the oranges were finished. Desires, selfishness, and greed. The sad state of the world today is basically due to man's greed, selfishness, and intense desire to accumulate material wealth and hoard the riches lovingly given to him by God. In quest of material possessions, we are causing irreparable damage to Mother Nature. We need to get back to our basic living and acquire what is necessary for a comfortable life. Simple living and high thinking should be our motto. We need to get God into our lives. If we have 6 zeros, the value is nil. But if the figure 1 is added in front of the 0, the value becomes 1,000,000. Likewise, our lives are meaningless and empty if we do not include God in our daily routine. Paramahamsa Yogananda said, 5 days for work, 1 day for the family, and 1 day for God. We should include God in our lives by doing selfless service, taking care of nature, developing love and sympathy, and sharing whatever we have. Remember, if all the animal, plants, and aquatic life dies, we as human beings will not survive. However, if all humans die, the world will thrive. The 4th cornerstone is purify. When we have a bath, we cleanse the body of the dirt and grime that accumulates because of its exposure to the air, sun, and rain. Our mind and soul are also exposed to all types of experiences, some of which are undesirable and impure. These stains left behind on the mind and soul are even more difficult to wash away than the dirt of the body. For total purification, we need to do selfless service, charity, and practice cosmic love. I'll use the analogy of the trader and the saint. A trader wanted to be initiated by his spiritual master. However, the saint refused to do so, and the trader was upset. A few months later, the saint arrived at the trader's home with a begging bowl in his hand. The bowl was filled with dirt. The saint asked for alms. The trader, hoping that he will be initiated this time, brought the best sweetmeats and fruits. Disgusted with the sight of the filthy bowl, the trader asked his master to clean it before he did his offering. The saint replied, "When such is the case with this bowl, How can I place the pure Lord in your heart, which is filled with various impurities like lust, anger, and greed, and ego? How can I initiate you when your mind is as dirty as this bowl? The trader felt abashed and left in shame. Thankfully, he transformed himself. He began to practice charity and selfless service. Totally purified, he was eventually initiated by the saint. Internal purity is to get rid of our vices and replace them with positive qualities like strength, harmony, love, patience, and magnanimity. It takes a long time to purify the mind. In addition to selfless service, repetition of the Lord's name, study of scriptural texts, attending prayer services, and contemplation of the Lord all help to purify the mind. The next cornerstone of the Divine Life Society and the Master's teaching is meditate. For the practice of meditation, you must have a calm, clear, pure, subtle, sharp, steady, and one-pointed intellect. The Lord is pure and subtle, so you need such a mind as well in order to approach the Lord. If you apply fire to green wood, it will never burn. However, if you try to burn a piece of dry wood, it will catch on fire instantly. Even so, those who have not purified the minds will not be able to start the fire of meditation. They will sleep or dream and build castles in the air when they sit for the practice. Those who have removed the impurities of the mind through repetition of the name of the Lord, through charity, selfless service, will enter into deep meditation. The pure mind will at once burn with the fire of meditation. The Master writes, "The fire of meditation destroys all impurities due to the vices. The knowledge comes suddenly." The next cornerstone is realize. The Master often said, and I quote, "God realization is not something that can be learned from books, nor can it be given by one person to another." Unquote. How then can one attain God? If all 5 cornerstones of integral yoga are practiced to perfection, then realization of God comes easily. Serve, serve, and go on serving all selflessly, advises the Master. Swami Shivananda's integral yoga. The Master believed in harmonious development of one's personality. He believed that one should develop the heart through compassion, the head through knowledge, hand through selfless activity. The head should be developed by study of scriptures, the heart by developing devotion to the Lord, and the hand by engaging oneself in keen and loving service. The harmonious combination is termed the yoga of synthesis or integral yoga. There is always a danger of practicing a particular yoga exclusively to the neglect of others. For example, in Jnana Yoga, God is stressed as real and the world as unreal. One day, a starving man may knock at a Jnana Yogi's door, and if he has not understood properly the teachings of Vedanta, he may very likely turn the starving man away, saying that he is also unreal. Similarly, a student of Bhakti Yoga, the yoga of devotion, may shed tears when singing the Lord's name. However, if someone asks him for a donation for a worthy cause, his tears may dry up abruptly. The danger of karma yoga or selfless activity. Many such devotees may be so engrossed in activities that they cannot sit in silence for a few minutes. Their minds are ever restless. The Divine Life Society of South Africa. The South African perspective. The work of the Divine Life Society of South Africa is the reflection of the teachings of Sri Swami Shivananda. It is worship in action. Swami Sahajananda, who was the spiritual head of the movement in South Africa, was one of the Master's foremost disciples. He steered the activities of the mission in South Africa. After visiting India and witnessing the plight of the poor street children, Swamiji, that is Swami Sahajananda, decided to send some money to India. He was prompted by the Master's inner voice. Why not do something for the poor Africans in South Africa? This is how the selfless activities of the society started. It was the year 1974. Swamiji realized that if you feed the hungry today, tomorrow they will be hungry again. He therefore decided that if people were equipped with knowledge and skills, they would become self-dependent. With this in mind, and with the Master's grace, Swamiji initiated the African Education and Skills Development Projects. The African Education Projects. During the apartheid era in South Africa, the government did not provide adequate educational facilities to the people of color. The black South Africans suffered the most. Swamiji witnessed children sitting on bare floors, being taught under trees, roofs that leaked when it rained. This sore sight inspired Swamiji to initiate the education projects. Up to 2019, 227 education projects have been completed. The most notable being the Shivananda Technical High School in KwaMashu, KwaZulu-Natal. Social services. Swamiji engaged in any type of projects that would help alleviate the plight of the poor. Many were in partnership with municipalities of government departments. The Peace and Skills Training Centers. Many people have been unemployed due to the lack of skills. The concept of the Peace and Skills Training Center began as a poverty alleviation project in 2006. Basic skills like sewing, computing, and bead making are taught at these centers. These centers are playing a vital role in serving the needs of the community. Each center comprises of a large hall to accommodate 40 sewing machines, a computer room, and a peace centers. The creches. Owing to the dire need to provide early childhood development and education in rural areas, the society decided to build creches in various parts of KwaZulu-Natal. The creches play an important role in providing a haven to children left unattended by working parents, as well as children left orphaned by HIV/AIDS. Swamiji also created the sewing centers. In 2004, Swamiji decided to set up sewing centers at its ashrams. There are 5 sewing centers in operation. After a 6-week training program, the learners are equipped to be employed in the textile industry. Alternatively, they can choose to start a home industry. The school feeding programs. Due to hunger, many school children could not concentrate in the classrooms. In his compassion and mercy, Swamiji initiated the school feeding program. Healthy sandwiches are prepared by volunteers at the ashram and delivered to the schools. This program has been continuing for 35 years. The home for the aged. With the decrease in the extended family units, many of the elderly were left alone without family support. Also, many youngsters lost their lives due to the scourge of HIV/AIDS. The society has erected a large complex consisting of 36 rooms for the Christian Care Center in KwaMashu. The organization also contributed towards the building of the Care Center for the Aged in Verulam. Hydroponic gardening. Several hydroponic garden projects were set up for charitable institutions to raise funds. Housing projects. Due to the housing shortage in the urban areas, many informal settlements began to mushroom. The hygienic and living conditions were poor in these settlements. Lack of sanitation, electricity, and water led to many diseases. Swamiji empathized with the sad state of these dwellers. As a result of the above, 340 low-cost houses were built in 2008. Also in 2006, 181 homes were built for displaced families. Health services. At the ashram headquarters, an allopathic clinic is held, where about 100 patients are seen weekly. This clinic is in existence for 60 years. The clinic caters for the underprivileged. Patients are mostly from the nearby informal settlements. This voluntary service is provided by a group of medical personnel and others. In the rural areas, patients walk long distances to health facilities. Some are transported by wheelbarrows, others are carried. Seeing the plight of these ailing patients, Swamiji lovingly built clinics. Of note is the Shivananda Luamba Multipurpose Medical Center in Zululand and the Shivananda Clinic at Oshlanga Institute in Anda. Alternative health therapies. Swami Shivananda believed in holistic approach and therefore encouraged other types of therapies. Homeopathy, Ayurveda, reflexology are offered at the ashram. The Sunlit Path program. Sadly, we have seen a marked increase in the problem of drug and alcohol addiction and suicidal tendencies amongst the youth. Responding to the plight of desperate parents, Swamiji inaugurated the Sunlit Path Club to assist
Officially
children
opened in
and
April
the youth with the above
2011.
issues.
The center is the home of the Shivananda Sunlit Club, with regular programs being held for learners from schools in the region.
The Sunlit Path program comprises of talks, plays, messages, readings, and dynamic group discussions.
Members who sign up for the club receive quarterly magazines which contain useful articles and stories to help them keep up their resolves and stay away from bad habits.
The Sunlit Path Center has many facilities which are freely accessible to all. There is a free counseling for a variety of problems, including substance abuse, depression, family conflicts, chronic health conditions, and poor school performance.
The spiritual development. One of the main goals of the ashram is spiritual development. The society takes care of the spiritual needs of the devotees through the following programs. Prayer services at the ashrams, yoga camp held on a monthly basis for all ages. The program includes meditation, yoga asanas, scriptural studies, human values, health and diet, life skills and sports. The Shivananda Academy caters mostly for children's scriptural studies and human values are taught. Printing and distribution of spiritual literature. This is one of the main aims of the missions. Books are printed at the ashram's own printing press.
We gave 90,000 of these to the schools free of charge. This one. And very good, got out about Christianity, from the Bible, Islam.
The Compassion series is a series of books, 4 in number, namely Call of Compassion, Compassion in Action, Compassion, the Crown of Life, and The Heart of Compassion, has been printed at the ashram.
These are our famous Compassion series. The government of India gave me special permission to take stories from a journal, and I got a copyright. All talented authors of the East and West. Very, very beautiful. 4 books like this, animal story.
Ganga Rani. Swamiji introduced Mother Ganga to the South African devotees. The Ganga pools are built in all the ashrams and consecrated with the divine waters of the Ganga. Daily Ganga Aarti is conducted. By exposing devotees to the glories of Mother Ganga, Swamiji has made us aware of the importance of water. He has taught us that water together with other natural resources, needs to be respected, preserved, and conserved. The Shivananda Ghat. Swami Shivananda's compassion towards the devotees extended beyond death. He inaugurated the All Souls Day, where prayers are offered for the peace of the departed souls. This is observed on the first of every month. In South Africa, ash disposal was becoming a problem due to crime, unsafe environments, and lack of proper facilities. Through the inspiration and the benevolence of the Master, Swamiji lovingly built the Shivananda Ghat. Here, the ash disposals are performed with dignity, peace, and safety. All Souls Day is also observed here on the first of every month. Many bereaved families have experienced solace and peace after visiting the Ghat. Please note that most of the projects of the Divine Life Society have been possible by community donations and voluntary services offered by the devotees. Interfaith interactions. In keeping with other faiths, the Society interacts with other organizations. In November 2004, the Divine Life Society, in conjunction with the African Cultural Heritage, co-hosted a function to honor the Dalai Lama. Swamiji built a baptismal center for the Shemba followers, as it was dangerous to baptize the devotees in the river, which was infested with crocodiles. The COVID initiatives, COVID-19 relief projects. As the world and South Africa tried to contain the spread and economic aftermath of the coronavirus pandemic, Divine Life Society of South Africa has undertaken the following humanitarian initiatives and has supported the following selected institutions doing sterling work during the pandemic. The hospital projects. Divine Life Society of South Africa partnered with the Department of Health and Divine Health Forum on the initiatives to assist with screening and medical support to patients attending local hospitals. The partnership has erected facilities where naming rights were granted to Divine Life Society in honor of our Master. The facilities are Shivananda King Dinizulu Screening Center, Shivananda Wentworth Hospital Flu Clinic, Shivananda R.K. Khan Hospital Screening Center. The distribution of approximately 10,000 grocery hampers to indigent families via Divine Life Society branches, temples, civic and Hindu organizations. The distribution of special COVID-19 health and tonic hampers. A special hamper containing health supplements to needy families of COVID-19 persons. The Dolphin Coast Hospice Association that provides free palliative and home-based care to terminally ill patients in the Elembe district. Food hampers were distributed to families by the hospice. Aryan Benevolent Home that takes care of approximately 700 indigent persons, the aged and the destitute who are financially challenged by the lockdown. The Gift of the Givers, which set up COVID-19 testing stations across South Africa for persons of all races and religions. UNICEF South Africa, which promotes the rights and well-being of children. UNICEF South Africa did some work in informal settlements. SPCA and Crow, which looks after the welfare of animals. It reported that the worst case scenario for the SPCA, if the coronavirus pandemic continues to spread, will result in the association closing its doors to new intake and euthanizing animals. The Dennis Hurley Foundation, which coordinated multi-religious relief efforts for the homeless in Durban. Face masks. These are manufactured by the Shivananda Arts and Crafts teams and distributed to persons visiting the Shivananda Ghat. Our masks were included in grocery hampers and were also distributed to pensioners collecting old age pensions at the Clermont Post Office near Pinetown. Over 2,500 face masks were distributed. The manufacture and distribution of face masks will be ongoing for now. Book distribution. Our Glory of the Divine Name booklets were distributed to thousands of homes during the lockdown to encourage chanting of mantras and Sri Hanuman Chalisa during the pandemic. Online prayer and yoga camps. Although our ashrams and branches and centers remained closed to the public during the lockdown, satsangs and yoga camps continued online with an average viewership of about 15,000 per month. From the beginning of the lockdown until the end of August 2021, there were over 200,000 views of our online satsangs and yoga camps. The Society has observed all religious festivals and events on the Divine Life calendar, ensuring that all participants were spiritually nourished. COVID-19 safety plans. All the ashrams and branches are closed to the public during the lockdown, except for essential service, maintenance, and upkeep. The Society has a COVID-19 plan that is being followed, and all COVID-19 protocols are observed and implemented. This is what Nelson Mandela, the great statesman of our beloved country, had to say, and I quote, "What can I do for my country in the field of education? Can I do as the Divine Life Society has done? I think that if that is the approach, you will find that some of the complaints which we genuinely have would be minimized." Unquote. I have tried to give an overview of Swami Shivananda's practical instructions, which are simple and lofty. If his teachings are put into practice, the results will be phenomenal. This is illustrated by the selfless work that Swami Sahajananda has single-handedly accomplished. Swamiji was a perfect and obedient disciple of Swami Shivananda. The Master's divine grace flowed through Swamiji. The Master and the disciples' compassion in action was limitless. Swami Sahajananda touched the hearts of many and has left an indelible impression on them. He combined both social and spiritual upliftment, thus making the world a better place to live in. This is Swami Shivananda's message on compassion, and I quote, "Open your heart to compassion, understand the suffering of others, and be ever ready to help them. The whole world is one family. All are children of God. The whole world is your abode. Share what you have with others. A compassionate heart is the abode of God." Unquote. Sri Swami Shivananda has illustrated to us in a very simple manner how to incorporate the essence of the Vedas in our daily lives. This makes him the perfect practical Vedantan. His teachings help steer us through this turbulent ocean of life. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya. our salutations and prostrations at the feet of our Divine Master, Sri Swami Shivananda and Pujya Swami Sahajananda. Hari Om camp participants. The topic for discussion today is spiritual resolves for all, our only salvation. Ashin, it is almost 2 years since we have had the dreaded coronavirus pandemic around, and who knows for how much longer. Is it therefore not necessary for us to intensify our spiritual sadhana and make fresh spiritual resolves? More especially that the coronavirus pandemic has had devastating effects on our lives, it has made us introspect and realize that we need so little. So what is the point of having tons of desires? We are fortunate that Sri Gurudev and Pujya Swamiji have given us all the ammunition to protect ourselves.
Yes, Priyan. Sri Gurudev and Pujya Swamiji have always stated that we need to intensify our spiritual sadhana to bring the power of the divine to rid the world of all problems, challenges, and now the coronavirus pandemic. Our master says that common mass prayer is very inspiring. A huge spiritual current is generated during mass prayer. In times of danger and calamity, mass prayer works wonders. Priyan, it is once again the beginning of a new year, and it is time to introspect and make fresh resolves. Sri Swami Shivananda says the following in his New Year's message. Let us hail the new year with the heart of love. Let us melt our differences and unite. Let our hearts melt at human suffering. May all be united. May all attain God consciousness in this very year. May there be peace, amity, plenty, and prosperity everywhere. May his blessings be upon us all.
Yes, Ashin, it is only sadhana that will save and sustain us. Sri Swami Shivananda says in his book, Bliss Divine, sadhana is a spiritual movement made forward. Sadhana is the purpose for which we have come to this place. He further states, if we do more chanting, we will create more spiritual vibrations. If we put our heart and soul into it, then it will benefit all those who are struggling to control the mind. This is the purpose of satsang. Ashin, I am very curious to know more. How can we, as devotees of Divine Life Society of South Africa, intensify our sadhana and make spiritual resolves, especially at the beginning of a new year?
We are very fortunate, Priyan, for Pujya Swamiji launched the monthly yoga camps and yoga retreats almost 30 years ago, with the specific focus that is collective sadhana. These occasions provide devotees, both young and old, with the opportunity to engage in sadhana on a more serious level. At camp, as you know, we complete the spiritual diary so as to measure our progress, renew our spiritual energy, and progress on the spiritual path. Sri Gurudev stated, the spiritual diary is a whip for goading the mind towards righteousness and God. If you regularly maintain this diary, you'll get solace, peace of mind, and make quick progress on the spiritual path. Maintain a daily diary and realize the marvelous results. Priyan, can you tell us what the spiritual diary comprises?
The elements of the spiritual diary are smaran, the remembrance of God always; japa, repetition of the divine name; asanas, practice of physical yoga asanas or bodily postures; and pranayama, deep yogic breathing for good health and concentration. We record in the spiritual diary the counts of our daily spiritual practices and are thereby able to measure our progress.
Thanks, Priyan. It is therefore imperative that we grasp every opportunity and are regular and punctual at all satsangs, yoga camps, and ashram programs, being the beginning of a new year. Let us make spiritual resolves to intensify our sadhana, not so?
Indeed, this is what Pujya Swamiji said about the yoga camp. Those who come to camp should feel a sense of strength, a confidence, a little more faith, a little more devotion, a little more courage to face what we have to face in life. I hear that in Path of Divine Grace, Volume 4, Pujya Swamiji's New Year's message 39 years ago, on 2nd January 1983, Pujya Swamiji gives clear directives to all camp participants, namely that the camp is an opportunity to engage in intense sadhana, austerity, and tapas. Chanting should be an integral part of the camp. Camp participants should feel a sense of strength, confidence, faith, a little more devotion, and a little more courage to face life, and the ashram is a place of austerity. In Path of Divine Grace, Volume 4, page 98, Pujya Swamiji also said that camp is an important event because it's been started by the will of Gurudev, and Gurudev will be present here, showering his grace upon us and giving us more strength to make this year a very successful year.
Priyan, what are the ingredients of the yoga camps?
The fundamental ingredient of the yoga camp is the spiritual diary. Even our preschool spiritual darlings keep a spiritual diary. The elements of the diary are smaran, the constant remembrance of God; Lika Japa, the writing of mantra; Japa, the chanting of the Lord's name; and asana, or bodily exercises. The spiritual diary is a measure to check one's spiritual progress. Let us all resolve to keep a spiritual diary daily, even at home, now during the pandemic. The yoga camp also includes Ganga Aarti, lessons, sport, arts and crafts, and skills development.
Wonderful indeed. I think that it is necessary to allude to Sri Swami Shivananda's 20 spiritual instructions, which are important aspects of sadhana and spiritual resolves. We should all try to practice as many of these instructions in the new year.
Please don't frighten us, Ashin. 20 instructions. Some of us find it difficult to practice one or two.
While Sri Gurudev has given us these 20 spiritual instructions, do not be afraid. Even if one sincerely practices a few of these, one is bound to make spiritual progress.
Ashin, tell us more about the 20 spiritual instructions.
Sri Gurudev says that the 20 spiritual instructions contain the very essence of all yoga sadhana. The 20 spiritual instructions, in summary, are 1. Brahma Muhurta, the period from 4 to about 7 a.m. is extremely favorable for sadhana. 2. Asana. Asana refers to bodily exercises, postures, and pranayama, or breathing exercises.
During this time of the pandemic, it is very important to exercise and keep fit also.
3. Japa. You can repeat any mantra according to your taste or inclination for at least 20 to 30 minutes daily. 4. Dietic discipline. Take sattvic vegetarian food. 5. Meditation. Meditation calms, focuses, and steadies the mind. Pujya Swamiji often stated that we all have to do long periods of meditation to earn Gurudev's grace. 6. Swadhyaya. Study systematically the sacred texts and books like the Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Bhagavatam, and other religious books. In fact, Sri Gurudev states that reading the books of saints is equivalent to having satsang with the saint.
7. Elevate the mind. Get by heart some prayer, slokas, stotras, and repeat them as soon as you sit in the asana, before starting japa or meditation. This will elevate the mind quickly. 8. Brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is purity in thought, word, and deed. Preserve the vital force, the virya, or seminal energy carefully. 9. Charity. Do charity regularly, according to one's means. 10. Have satsang. Have constant satsang. That is, association with holy people. Do not develop any evil habits. 11. Fast. Fast on Ekadasi and special religious occasions. 12. Japamala. Have a japamala or rosary around your neck, or in your pocket, or underneath your pillow at night to remind you of God. 13. Observe Mona. Observe Mona, that is, the vow of silence, for a couple of hours daily. I think this is meant for you, Ashin. 14. Discipline of speech. Speak the truth at all cost. Speak a little. Speak sweetly. Always utter encouraging words. 15. Be content. Reduce your wants. Be mentally detached. Have plain living and high thinking.
I think that the value of contentment has been shown during the pandemic. Even multimillionaires realized last year that their money was worthless when oxygen could not be taken in by the body.
That's true. Nature has taught us difficult lessons and has shown how simple living and high thinking are what we require. 16. Practice love. Never hurt anybody. 17. Be self-reliant. The Master says that we should not depend upon servants. Self-reliance is the highest of all virtues. 18. Have self-analysis. Keep a daily spiritual diary. Maintain a daily routine and resolve form. We can pledge to do daily sadhana, japa, likha japa, maintain brahmacharya, and various other spiritual pledges for self-growth. 19. Do your duty. Remember that death is awaiting you at every moment. Never fail to fulfill your duties. 20. Remember God. Think of God always. Repeat His name always. Ashin, this is the essence of all spiritual sadhana. All these spiritual canons must be rigidly observed. We must not give any leniency to the mind.
Wow, that was astonishing. 20 spiritual instructions. I'm sure that we can resolve to follow some of the instructions, if not all. The Master says in Bliss Divine, you are determined to make a fresh start. You make strong resolves, take definite vows. Yet days pass and weeks go by, and the former nature continues to persist. The Master continues, nature always rebels against sudden changes. Your old self will revolt vehemently against new ideals and habits that you force upon it. So, Priyan, we have to be steadfast and pledge wholeheartedly.
On the topic of resolves, our beloved Gurudev has given us some good advice also. Maintain a daily spiritual diary, and at the end of every month, review it to see where you need to improve. Do daily likha japa or mantra writing in a notebook. Chalk out a daily routine for daily practice and stick to it at any cost. Distractions and obstacles are many. Be ever careful and vigilant. Make a few resolves for practice during the new year. Any of the resolves may be crossed out, added to, or altered to suit the individual temperament, convenience, or stage of development. Do not abruptly change the mode of living. You can grow and evolve quickly in the spiritual path and develop your willpower and control the mind and the senses by sticking to the resolves. Do not try the impossible at first. Take your resolves very cautiously and ascend step by step on the ladder of yoga. If you fail in any of the resolves through lack of self-control, unknowingly or by force of circumstances, you should perform some extra malas of japa or give up one meal to remind yourself of the resolve and to impress the mind of the importance of these resolves. This is self-punishment.
Hey, Priyan, do you think we can give up our cell phones for a day?
That will be serious tapas, brother. However, the cell phone should be used for communication and not for conversation and as a typical social tool. In addition to these, Pujya Swamiji has given us various pledge forms. These include television pledge form, the Karma Yoga pledge form, Brahmacharya pledge form, and daily satsang pledge form, amongst others.
Thank you, Priyan. Our Sri Gurudev and Pujya Swamiji have really given us everything in abundance.
Yes, Ashin, we must be ever grateful for all these gifts that we have received. So, camp participants and devotees, the choice is ours. Let us all make the bold commitment to be regular in our sadhana so as to promote, uphold, and cherish Sri Gurudev and Pujya Swamiji's legacy in South Africa. Tomorrow may be too late. This is the need of the hour. We owe this to our great Guru, Sri Swami Shivananda, and to one of the greatest saints of all time, Pujya Swami Sahajananda. This will be a fitting tribute to Sri Gurudev and Pujya Swamiji, more especially as this year is Sri Gurudev's 135th birth anniversary.
Dear camp participants and devotees, what is now our role and responsibility? We can be complacent, or we can make a solemn pledge to Sri Gurudev and Pujya Swamiji to make serious spiritual resolve, which is really the pressing need of the hour, especially with the challenges that the world faces currently.
Further, the Master assures us that when he says, even when the medical board has pronounced a case to be hopeless, prayer comes to the rescue and the patient is miraculously cured. There have been many instances of this description. You might know this. Healing by prayer is really miraculous and mysterious.
Let us find resonance and meaning in the following words of Sri Swami Shivananda. Prayer does not demand high intelligence or eloquence. God wants your heart when you pray. Even a few words from a humble, pure soul, though illiterate, will appeal to the Lord more than the eloquent, flowing words of an orator or pandit. True and sincere sadhana is indeed our true salvation.
We conclude with the words of our Divine Master, Sri Swami Shivananda. On the threshold of the new year, convert yourself into a herald of divinity. Lead a divine life of love, service, devotion, discipline, and wisdom. May the new year witness you develop into a perfect and ideal being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Hari Om, dear camp participants. Thank you for tuning into our yoga camp online lessons. Please note that satsang will commence at 11 a.m. and a WhatsApp link will be sent to you shortly. Om.